The job description for night shift telescope operator sounded like a paid vacation. 3 nights a week, I'd drive out to the Iridian Observatory, a collection of white domes sitting silently in the vast, empty expanse of the Arizona desert. My role was simple: monitor the data feeds, make sure the equipment didn't overheat, and call the on-call engineer if any red lights started flashing. Most nights, the only sounds were the hum of the servers and the whisper of the wind against the main dome. My control room was a small, circular space filled with monitors, a fortress of solitude in a sea of sand and stars. I loved the isolation. No small talk, no office politics, just me, the cosmos, and a lukewarm thermos of coffee. It was on a Tuesday, deep into a moonless night, that the routine shattered. It started around 2:13 a.m. An alert pinged softly on my main console. It wasn't a system failure or an overheating warning. It was a signal flag, an unclassified tight beam radio signal originating from a patch of sky that should have been empty. My first thought was that it was just interference, a stray satellite, maybe some military-grade chatter bouncing off the atmosphere. I ran a diagnostic, expecting the system to filter it out as noise. It didn't. The signal was persistent. It wasn't random static. It had a pattern, a simple, rhythmic pulse. Beep, 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 over and over. It was clean. Too clean. Natural cosmic signals are messy, chaotic. This was methodical, intelligent. For the next hour, I was completely absorbed. I rerouted the signal through our primary analysis software, trying to find a match in any known database: commercial, military, civilian. Nothing. It was a ghost. The source was somewhere out past the Oort cloud, the icy shell at the edge of our solar system, but the signal was impossibly strong for that distance. That's when the first strange thing happened inside the observatory. The lights in the server corridor flickered once, then twice. The emergency backup generator kicked on with a low groan, ran for about 10 seconds, and then shut off. The main power hadn't even failed. I noted it in the log as a minor electrical fault and tried to refocus on the signal, but the pattern had changed. It was more complex now. The simple beeps were interspersed with longer tones, forming what looked like a binary sequence. I'm no cryptographer, but I know binary when I see it. I started transcribing it, my heart starting to beat a little faster. It wasn't just a pulse anymore. It was a message. As I was writing down a string of ones and zeros, I heard a sound over the internal comm system. It was a faint scratching, like fingernails dragging across a microphone. I grabbed the receiver. Hello, is anyone on the maintenance channel? Only static answered. All other personnel were miles away, asleep. The only other person with access was the chief engineer, and he'd have to buzz the main gate to get in. The gate log was empty. I tried to rationalize it. Old wiring, a rodent in the walls. But the feeling of being watched began to creep in. The control room, once my sanctuary, now felt like a glass cage. The large windows that looked out into the desert night suddenly seemed like one-way mirrors. I turned back to the signal. I had enough of the binary now to run a basic translation. It was a string of coordinates. My blood went cold when I plotted them. They weren't celestial coordinates, they were terrestrial. A location on Earth, a location less than 200 miles from the observatory. And the signal was getting stronger, exponentially stronger. The telemetry showed its point of origin was moving, closing the distance at a speed that defied physics. It was as if something had been broadcasting from the edge of the solar system 1 minute, and was in our backyard the next. The scratching on the comms started again, louder this time. It was accompanied by a soft, wet, clicking sound. I slammed the volume dial down, my hands shaking. This was no electrical fault. I stood up and walked to the control room door, peering through the small reinforced window into the main corridor. It was empty. The long, white hallway stretched into darkness, punctuated only by the dim green glow of the emergency exit signs. But I could smell something, a strange, metallic odor, like burnt ozone and damp soil. Thump. A loud bang echoed from the main dome above me, the one housing the primary telescope. It sounded like something heavy had landed on the roof. I grabbed the emergency phone, the direct line to the sheriff's department. As my fingers hovered over the keypad, all the monitors in front of me went black. The hum of the servers died. The entire facility plunged into absolute, deafening silence. My own breathing was the only sound. I stood frozen in the pitch-black room, the dead phone in my hand. The only light was the faint starlight filtering through the windows. And then I heard it. It wasn't coming from the speakers or from the dome above. It was coming from the other side of the control room door. A slow, deliberate scraping sound. The sound of something heavy being dragged along the tiled floor of the corridor. I backed away from the door, stumbling over my chair. I fumbled for my cell phone in my pocket, but there was no service out here. There never was. I was completely cut off. The scraping stopped directly outside my door. The metallic, earthy smell was overpowering now, seeping under the door. I held my breath, listening. For a full minute, there was nothing. I started to think, to hope, that maybe it had moved on. Then, the handle on the heavy steel door began to turn, slowly, silently.